If there was, I would say bring it out and do it immediately. But there isn't, so there can't be. That means that while you can fund new, cleaner, alternative energy sources, and I'm 100% for it, you have to keep using oil and gas. It's simple. It's not fucking calculus. Okay, so if you have to keep using oil and gas, what's the best way for us to regain our energy independence here in the United States? To use the goddamn resources that we have in this country. That means natural gas and oil. That means offshore drilling. That means drilling in Anwar. That means drilling the back in oil field. That means tapping natural gas resources. That means doing all of those things, while at the same time promoting alternative energy use and development. Now, I do agree on one issue. That is that oil companies currently have leases on lands that they are not exploiting and not drilling, should either have to drill or give them up before they get new ones off the coast or in new oil fields in Alaska. I agree with them. They shouldn't just be given more leases if they're not going to do anything with the ones that they have. That's a perfectly reasonable solution. Otherwise, Charles Shumer is a fucking dick. Period. And apparently so is everybody else in the fucking Senate and Congress, because they cannot pass a single motherfucking bill to solve any goddamn problem in this country, let alone something as big as the energy crisis. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about oil too, especially in light of the fact that oil prices have gone down a significant percentage in the month of July. And they're at their lowest point right now that they've been in quite some time. There's not been a translation to gas prices at the pump yet, but some people speculate that there will be a downturn in prices as well. What does this mean in the short term and the long term? I believe that there has been some evidence to come out that a new policy is going into place by the powers that be that's going to force down the price of oil to around $50 a barrel in order to strengthen and to bring up the economies of Russia and China, while at the same time forbidding exploitation of oil and gas in this country to make the United States more heavily dependent on foreign oil reserves and thus prevent our energy independence, while at the same time promoting the continued use of oil and gas because Russia is sitting on huge natural resources thereof. And this could be a way of getting Russia back into being one of the massive superpowers of the world like the old USSR used to be. Pure speculation. Don't know whether it's true or not. But the slow decline in oil prices and the willingness on the part of the president to open up offshore drilling and to access some of these other previously unavailable sites should cause oil to be further depressed. I imagine it will be modest. I don't know how big a change it will be, and I imagine that we will actually see a slightly less price for gas at the pump in the short term. I do not know what that means for the long term, but I'll repeat what I've said before as far as peak oil and as far as oil and gas consumption, supply and demand goes, and that is this, very simply. If there are still fucking vast oil fields and huge natural gas deposits that have been discovered and documented and that are available and not currently being drilled, we cannot have reached a point where we're at maximum drilling and maximum capacity, because we're not drilling already known deposits of oil and natural gas. So, in my estimation, we have not reached peak oil. We'll have reached peak oil when we fail to find huge, giant oil fields, but we have not failed to find huge, giant oil fields. Huge, giant oil fields are still out there. They remain to be tapped and they remain to be drilled. And until exploration fails to find any new fucking sources of oil, then we have not reached peak oil. That's my own opinion. You may differ, if you so choose. I've been on vacation, that's why you haven't seen a video from me for a while. It's going to be over tomorrow, so I'll be back to the same old fucking grind. But hopefully I'll be able to get back to my regular schedule of videos. I see in international news that things have cooled off as far as Iran goes, which is a good thing, although there's still a lot of tension there, and there's still a lot of questions about the so-called nuclear capacity of Iran, and whether or not this can translate into weapons application or not with their enrichment of uranium. But I also see that the rhetoric as far as Pakistan goes has been raised to a new level, and I find that troubling, because that indicates a shift in policy on a national level towards the Brezinsky method of international diplomacy, which sort of is a foreshadowing of an ultimate Obama presidency. So just keep that in mind. I wanted to also say, as a final note, commenting on the movie The Dark Knight, the Batman movie sequel is an excellent movie. I would give it a 9 out of 10. Visually stunning, the acting is superior. Heath Ledger is fantastic as the Joker. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a posthumous Oscar for his performance. Having said that, I'm not going to spoil any of the plot for anybody, but I will say this. There is in the movie some bit of pro-administration propaganda. You have to look for it very closely, but anyone who's seen the film could probably point out a couple of instances that I'm thinking of. But on the other hand, it does serve a very great purpose as being a cinematic virtual world of the United States today, and exactly where we are heading, into a world of chaos where there is also this sort of depressive environment around us, which keeps us within our own insular environments. Like Gotham City is transformed into the United States as a whole. So, if you haven't seen the movie, watch it and try to pick out some of those things that I'm talking about, and how it can be changed into a metaphor for the United States and the police state that we're rapidly turning into, and one in which insular people are afraid to leave their houses and fearful of where they're going to get enough money to pay for the basics of life, and how they're going to pay for gas to get to work and buy food for their families. And if you have already seen it, maybe you want to see it again and examine it in light of some of these things, and maybe you'll agree with me how it can be seen as a microcosm of the U.S. and the coming collapse of the United States as a world power, which seems to